Now, exploring Nigeria's critical efforts to recover billions of dollars stolen over the years and hidden abroad highlights a pressing issue for the nation's stability. Now, this is contained in a report on the Common African Position on Asset Recovery Implementation in Nigeria, which sheds light on Africa's struggle against illicit financial flows, which cost the continent around $88 billion annually. Now, the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center at a briefing in Abuja says it is pushing for the full implementation of the Proceeds of Crime Recovery and Management Act, which advocates for a single agency to manage recovered assets and ensure regular public updates. Now, through the Common African Position on Asset Recovery, otherwise known as CAPA, Nigeria has reclaimed over $5 billion with the support of international partners like the US and Switzerland.
If you say you recover this money, let the citizens see the money. Let the citizens see the asset. You cannot be calling figures and yet the citizens, they don't feel it, they don't see it. You know, I think it's a major challenge in the Nigerian assets recovery, management. And we need to do a lot to ensure that there is more transparency and accountability in the recovery and management of this asset.
Spot on. Well, I'm joined now by the Executive Director of the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, Rafstanjani. You saw him moments ago in that report. Thank you for joining us. Good to have you on Newsnight. Well, let me start first. This $5 billion recovered in 25 years in Nigeria, is it really a reflection of how much in terms of national assets that have been diverted or stolen, if you like?
Well, as a matter of fact, actually, this is just an estimation of the assets that have been recovered, that are actually declared, that are known. As you know, you have multiple agencies in Nigeria recovering assets and with no information on what they have recovered and what they have used this asset for. And that is the reason why we advocated for the enactment of the, legal framework that will ensure effective management of assets recovery process, because you have custom recovery, you have national drug enforcement recovery, you have police recovering, you have EFCC recovering, ICPC recovering, and other agencies that are also recovering. And yet there's no anywhere you can go and get information in the last 20 years or 25 years or even 10 years where you can say, okay, this is what we have recovered. These are the money. These are the juries. You remember the Ziani gold juries, and some other looters, rich swords, lands, houses, cars, all those things. Where are the information on that?
No, I don't understand. Are you saying that the EFCC, ICPC, these recovery agencies, including, of course, the customs, don't have clear record of what's been recovered?
As I speak to you, it is it's not known to the general public. If they have it, maybe they have it, on their own. But this is public asset. These are public property. You're supposed to, give information on what you are doing so that people can have confidence in what they are
and be able to track
doing, and then be able to track this recovered asset. So because a lot of houses have been collected from looters, a lot of dollars, pounds, euro in their houses, have been collected. But where are these assets? So this is the reason why CISLAC, with other civil society organizations, we push for the, having a legal framework, because we did not even have a legal framework on how to manage this asset. But despite this legal framework that we have, which was passed and assented in 2022, we still have challenges because Nigerians are even afraid to expose those, Nigerian public looters, because there's no protection, there's no whistleblower protection. And there is no, in the law itself, there's no even, opportunity to synergize, to coordinate. You need to do, for you to be able to have a successful assets recovery, both locally and internationally, you need to have collaboration, you need to have sharing of information and data, and you need to make sure that, you know, you are not in competition. Like what
That's
we see now.
collaboration
Exactly.
between or among the
government agencies. Yeah.
Okay.
Because police cannot be doing it alone.
Yeah.
Code of conduct cannot be doing it alone.
So what's happening
Custom
is
cannot
that they are
be doing
working in silos.
They are
right
working
now.
on silo, and that is why you cannot have a central data of what has been collected. During Obasanjo, a lot of money have been collected, you know, from Abacha loot. I tell you, we work with Ikonje Wala to show how those money were utilized. She was shocked herself. The money they say that they have used to do certain projects, those things did not even exist. So
wow.
It's been going on since during Obasanjo till today. That, you know, trend has not finished. You have a lot of money you are recovering and asset. Why must you go and be borrowing money all the times? Why do you need to go and be borrowing money, you know, when you have asset that you can utilize, you know, to, you know, deal with some, you know, gaps in your budgetary, you know, provision? So we are saying that the asset recovery and use of it must be properly done in a very transparent way. And that is why African Union came up with this, you know, tools, because some of the, you know, Western countries, they are trying to even dictate to Africans, you know, how this asset should come back. So because African nations are sovereign nation, so African Union decided to say that, look, since asset recovery is very important to African nations, why can't we have a framework that we can make sure that we deal with this? So, you know, they came up with detection and identification of asset. They also came with the recovery and return of asset. They also come with management of recovered asset, as well as cooperation and partnership. Because
at
international level. Because whatever you are doing, if there's no that partnership and this, it will be difficult.
I'll come to that very quickly. Let's stress more on the whistleblower policy. It looks like what you're saying as CISLAC is that it should be strengthened. How do you strengthen the whistleblower policy in a way that will encourage Nigerians to, you know, say something when they see something or when they know something?
That policy is, appears to me that it is even dead, you know, with the Kemi, the former Minister of Finance. And because now nobody is even talking about that policy. But what we are advocating is to have a legal framework. We want to have a legislation on it so that at least nobody will come and discard it like they have discarded, you know, the whistleblower policy at that time. And also because it was just to collect money. It was not really to institutionalize, you know, fighting corruption and encourage the citizens to speak out against corruption. That is why probably the policy did not really even last, and it was not legislated. And Buhari spent 8 years shouting he wanted to fight corruption, and he could not legislate, you know, a legal framework that will guarantee citizens and protect them and encourage them, and also make sure that there's no fake news, you know, in whatever they are you know, mentioning as somebody looting. You cannot successfully do any fight against corruption without whistleblower regime.
Very, very important. Now let's talk about some of these 4 pillars of, you know, of the KEPA framework. You mentioned detection, recovery, management, and international cooperation. You pointed out that, look, these countries that are beneficiaries or the receivers of stolen wealth, they need to do more. What exactly do they need to do?
So, for example, I'll give you an example of France. A lot of assets of Nigeria stolen are in France and other African countries. So they did not have even legal framework in their own country on how to repatriate back this asset to Nigeria and other African countries. Civil society organization led by Transparency International work with, you know, France government to have a legal framework. I was privileged to be part of that team that met with the, you know, France government and parliament to suggest ways in which they can even legislate the law. Today, that law has been legislated in France, and that is why you hear sometime early this year or last year, 150 million, you know, dollar was coming back from France. This is courtesy of civil society work.
What exactly is the high point of the law? Does it say you know, what is the source of your wealth, for example?
No,
I mean,
so
very quickly.
both France and England, now you cannot go to England and buy a house anyhow. You have to explain the source of the wealth,
Great.
which before it was not the case. And it was civil society that we work with Transparency International UK and the Global Witness and other civil society there, that we make sure that we put pressure on the British government to have that legal framework. In America, we also have similar thing now, because we all want to make sure that we tidy up everything. But at home, it's very loose.
Right. We also need to plug, you know, the loopholes that allow for public, you know, officials to dip their fingers into the public till. Our Rafstanjani, Executive Director of Civil Society, thank you so much for joining us. CISLAC.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Newsline.